Images are all around us. We see them every day, where we live, where we work, where we play. Images that move, images that sell, images that motivate, images that inform, images that teach. Some images are powerful, while others are fragile. Pictures can make us buy, think, act, react, or just marvel at their beauty. Some images scream out with messages, while others play only a background role in our lives. Images can be big or small, colorful or monochrome, funny or sad, uplifting or just riveting. Some images are successful while others fail. Superior images are as unique as the fingerprint of the photographer who crafted them. That's what this program is all about, learning the fundamentals of crafting digital images.
Hi, I'm Brian Ratty, and welcome to my program on taking or crafting digital images. Digital photography is really a three-step process: capturing images using your digital camera, crafting digital images, and digital manipulation. In this program, we're going to concentrate on the crafting side of the process. With the advent of inexpensive digital cameras, the world of photography has been opened up to millions of new image makers. But many of these new image makers concern themselves more with manipulating their images with their computers than they do crafting the images correctly in the first place. And that's too bad, because all good images are crafted with good photographic techniques first. In this program, we're going to talk about the art and craft of making, not taking, digital images.
Outstanding pictures have a rhythm all their own. They connect and communicate with the viewer. But good images just don't happen. They are created or crafted by photographers who have learned the fundamentals of photography. And that's what we're about to explore, learning the fundamentals of good photographic techniques. First, we will review how to use your digital camera and how digital works. Next, we'll look at some properties of light. From there, we will explore exposure control, and then some general rules for good photographic design. In the next chapter, we will show you how to critique your images and how to identify visual themes and visual subjects. From there, we'll look at some shooting accessories you might want to consider. We conclude the program by looking at the gift of photography and how to recognize the visual world that is all around us.
My camera bag is full of more than just cameras. It's also full of photographic tools and concepts that I use when crafting my images. And the great thing about these concepts is, for the most part, they are free, and other photographers can learn how to use them. We have a lot to cover, so let's get started.
Digital cameras come in all shapes and sizes and with a large range of price tags. These cameras can be divided into three basic types based on their design and intended use: point and shoot, advanced amateur, and professional studio and SLR type. All digital cameras operate on the very same basic principles as the earliest pinhole cameras, and for that matter, any other camera ever made. I think it helps to think of any camera as a light, tight box with a hole in it. The hole allows a certain amount of light to enter the box for a certain amount of time so that it can expose or create an image on a light-sensitive medium we call an electronic sensor or CCD unit, which is a charge-coupled device. Just think of this sensor as the eye in your camera that sees your image. But before this happens, the light has to be organized or focused by the lens. The lens is basically a metal barrel which contains several glass or plastic elements arranged in groups. These elements gather light reflected from the scene you're photographing, focus that light, and deliver it to the surface of the sensor where it can form the sharpest possible image. After the light has been focused by the lens, it travels to your light-sensitive CCD where it can expose or create your image. But before this happens, you must control the volume of light and the amount of time that light is allowed to expose the CCD. You control this light volume and time with f-stops and shutter speeds. F-stops and shutter speeds work together to control the amount of light that reaches the electronic sensor built into your camera. An f-stop determines the size of the hole the light passes through, and your shutter speed the amount of time that light is allowed to reach the sensor. With the right f-stop and the right shutter speed, your picture will be correctly exposed, not too light and not too dark.
F-stops and shutter speeds are very important concepts of photography. I encourage you to fully understand these concepts before you attempt to craft any serious images.
There are 4 basic image viewing systems used in modern digital cameras. These types of systems are 1. The true optical viewfinder used in SLR or single lens reflex cameras. The real advantage of using this optical viewfinder is that the image you see in your viewfinder is exactly the same image that the lens sees. 2. The electronic viewfinder or EVF system used in SLR type cameras. The EVF viewfinder has a small color monitor or TV built into the camera itself. This little TV sees exactly what your lens is seeing. 3. The through-the-camera viewfinders found on less expensive digital cameras. This system found on most digital cameras works okay, but what you see through the viewfinder may not be exactly what your camera sensor is seeing. 4. Almost all digital cameras come equipped with a small color monitor on the back of the camera. This small TV is called an LCD or liquid crystal display. Here you will see the icons of your camera settings, check your exposure, focus, and framing of your image. After you've taken your pictures, you can also review and delete any unwanted images. In modern digital cameras, there is a sensor and onboard computer that work together to capture the light reflected from an image and convert this information into the digital format. As we said earlier, this sensor is a light-sensitive electronic chip called a CCD unit. This small sensor converts and records light waves into tiny dots called pixels. The more pixels a sensor can record results in better quality images or better image resolution. Digital cameras are rated by the number of pixels they can record. The more pixels the camera can capture, the better its resolution. The rating number is typically given in millions of pixels or megapixels. Also, most cameras allow you to select the resolution needed for any given assignment. These settings are made in pixel resolution and can be 640 by 480, low for email and posting to the web, 1280 by 960, good size for test shots and getting to know your camera, 1600 by 1200, good size for standard assignments, 2048 by 1536 plus, best size for images that are going to be published. Digital cameras store their photos, for the most part, on removable memory devices. These devices are called memory cards and come in several types. The four most common are compact flash, smart media, memory sticks, and secure digital. In most cases, you'll use whatever your camera uses, as these memory devices are not interchangeable.
I can't end this chapter without stressing the importance that you read the manual that came with your camera. After you've read the manual and totally understand the features and controls of your system, your camera should become just an extension of your own creative powers.
Key concept: the charge-coupled device, or CCD unit, records the image in a digital camera. Key concept: the electronic viewfinder, or EVF, is a viewing system found on some types of digital cameras. Key concept: a pixel is the smallest element within the digital image. Key concept: the liquid crystal display, or LCD, is a small color monitor found on most digital cameras. Light is the energy that puts an image into our camera. It's the essence of all photography. It's significant that the word photography, which comes from the ancient Greeks, literally means to write with light. Of course, if light is the essence of what we photograph, it's also the essence or medium of what we see, our sole visual link to the world. So how do we approach light? How do we learn to understand it, control it, use it to make better pictures? First, we must learn the four basic properties or conditions of natural light: direction, form, what I call hardness or softness, contrast, and color. We'll learn how these four characteristics of light influence what we see and what we photograph. And we'll learn some ways we can creatively control light to improve our photography. There's only one principal source of natural light in the world: the sun. We're comfortable with the sun. It doesn't matter if we're indoors or out, or if it's at night or day. Psychologically, human beings expect to see all objects lit as the sun would light them, lit by a single source, from above or from one side, with a single shadow. When directional light strikes an object, it defines that object's shape by delineating three areas. A highlight appears as a very bright, small area on the subject because it reflects light directly into the eye or the camera. Usually the reflected light is so bright that you can't see surface details in this area, and neither can your CCD. The lit area is bright and illuminated directly by the source, and you can see surface details. The shadow area is shaded from the light source by another part of the subject, and there is little or no detail. The combination of these three factors give the viewer information about the shape, dimensions, texture, and color of the subject. We have seen how the directional quality of light plays a critical role in illuminating and defining a subject. Now let's look at something equally important: the nature of the light source and how its relative size and distance from the subject determines how your subject will appear in the finished photograph. The sun is a very large light source. but in relationship to its distance from any object on Earth, it's really quite small. It's so far away that the light rays that it produces are essentially parallel. When shining directly on a subject on a clear day, the sun always produces hard light and casts sharply defined shadows. Hard, direct light has an uncompromising quality which makes it unsuitable for subtle effects. But when the sky becomes overcast by a layer of clouds, the sun is no longer the direct source of light. Instead, the sky itself becomes a direct source. Because it is very large in relation to its distance from the subject, it provides soft light with indistinct shadows. Softer, more diffuse light creates weak, soft-edged shadows and dim highlights. It reveals fine detail and a wide range of subtle tones, colors, and shapes. Between the very hard and the very soft light there is medium light, and it's often the best choice for photography. Medium source lighting gives excellent modeling for shape and roundness. The directional quality of the light is still strong, but the shadows are not as sharp and as distracting as they appear with hard light. We can find medium source lighting both indoors and out. On a bright sunny day, shoot in open shade, or if indoors, use window light. These are two good examples of medium light. We have seen that when directional light falls on a subject, it defines areas of highlight, light, and shadow. In other words, it creates a relationship between light and dark, and it's that relationship that forms the contrast quality of the light. We can do powerful things with contrast in photography. By increasing contrast, we can sometimes add impact to a picture. We can convey feelings of simple strength and power. By decreasing contrast, we can convey opposite emotions, like delicacy, beauty, and calm. But in order to control contrast, we first have to understand the difference between how we are able to see it and how our camera is able to record it. Let's look at contrast in two different ways. The first I'll call lighting contrast. It's the contrast created strictly by the light that's falling on the scene. It does not depend on the subject or elements within the scene. When we look at lighting contrast, we look at the entire range of brightness within a scene, from the brightest highlight to the deepest shadow. The second way to approach contrast is what I call local or subject contrast. Local contrast does not depend on the directional quality of the light. It's created by the different tonal qualities inherent in the subject itself. For instance, you see some of these pencils as light and others as a dark tone. Yet the light striking all the pencils is exactly the same. The inherent light reflecting quality of the pencils are different, creating adjacent, locally contrasting tones within this scene. What's important is that the total range of what we photograph is made up of both kinds of contrasts: the light and shade effects of the light itself, and/or the tonal differences inherent in our subjects. You could spend a lifetime studying color and still run out of time. Why? Because color is complex and fascinating. It spans such great divisions of human knowledge and experience, such as physics, psychology, and human emotions. Color is sensuous and powerful. It conveys information about our surroundings. It creates strong moods and feelings. But color is a subject that defies easy definitions, because it's not an either-or kind of quality, but subjective. Each of us respond to color in a unique and personal way. For many photographers, control of color is just a process of casual selection. We point the camera at colors we like and often get beautiful results. But in order to deliberately control and modify color, the photographer has to understand and depend on three things: the color of the light itself, the color of the subject we photograph, and the color potential or white balance of the CCD in our camera. The color of the light we use to craft our images is always changing. We can't see this color change with our eye because for the most part our brain makes corrections for us. We do know that candlelight, sunsets, and sunrises are warm or yellow, and that at high noon on a bright sunny day looks a little cool or blue. In between the warm and cool light is a whole spectrum of light colors that are rated in Kelvin temperature or K settings. Yellow light is about 3200 K, while bright sunlight at high noon is about 8000 K. The sensor in digital cameras can't tell the difference between 3200 K light and 8000 K light. Therefore, we have to white balance the camera to tell it that the color white looks like this using these lighting conditions. The white balance programs the camera memory to see white and all other colors correctly using this lighting setup. While most cameras have an automatic white balance, that doesn't always mean automatically right. Many cameras offer a manual white balance feature where the photographer zooms the lens into a white object or white card and then sets the camera white balance. This is my preferred method of white balance. Color itself can be the subject of your photograph. More often, it's an essential part of your picture structure. It defines shapes, patterns, and textures. It determines moods and invokes emotional response. By learning to recognize particular effects and the ways that colors relate, you can begin to design with color and use this powerful language in your pictures. Direction, form, contrast, and color. We've approached these four properties of photographic light as separate factors. A serious photographer must be able to recognize, understand, and control all these properties in concert. If you learn to use all the properties of light in harmony, you'll be able to create great photographs. Key concept. Human beings expect to see all objects lit as the sun would light them, lit by a single source with a single shadow. Key concept. Photographic light can be rated as hard, soft, or medium. Key concept. There are two types of photographic contrast: light contrast and subject contrast. Key concept. The color of photographic light is rated in Kelvin temperature or K settings. If you've used film-type cameras in the past, you know that film comes in different speeds. These film speeds are rated with an ISO number of 50, 100, 200, 400, and up. The smaller the ISO number, the less sensitive the film is to light. This light sensitivity rating system is incorporated in most digital cameras. Therefore, you select the ISO number you want to use before you expose your pictures. Usually, you'll find the ISO selection in the main menu on your camera. If you're shooting in bright sunlight, snow, or sand, you would select an ISO rating of 50 or 100. If you're shooting in the open shade or a brightly lit room, you may want to select a rating of ISO 200. But if you're shooting indoors using only available room light, you should select a rating of ISO 400 or more. The most obvious controls over exposure are the camera's aperture and shutter speed settings. Working in conjunction with the ISO settings, these adjustments regulate the amount of light reaching the image sensor. The automatic exposure control feature, or P for program mode, on your camera is a big benefit for about 8 out of 10 images you take. The convenience of having the camera automatically measure the brightness of the light and then set the correct shutter speed and aperture can be very useful, as it lets you concentrate on crafting your image. All light meters, including the one built into your digital camera, operate on the same general principles. Light-sensitive photocells regulate the amount of electricity flowing in the metering system. As the intensity of the light reflected from the subject changes, the amount of electricity flowing through the photocell circuits change, and this is used by the auto exposure system to calculate the correct exposure. Most of these built-in light meters are center-weighted. There are 3 common types of metering systems, known as TTL meters or through-the-lens metering. An averaging system uses twin cells whose output is then combined to average the amount of light hitting the sensor. A popular variation on this is the center-weighted meter. In this system, light cells are overlapped in the center so that more emphasis is given to the center of the picture. The third style is the built-in spot meter. This system meters a very narrow area of the subject, about 2 degrees or less of the picture area. The photographer must be extremely careful in determining the correct exposure using this system. Some photographers rely on handheld light meters. These meters have a digital readout and can analyze both available light and the light from electronic flash. Working in complex lighting setups, the handheld meter is much superior over the light meter built into the camera. Light meters don't see a scene the same way you see it. The exposure meter or exposure control system in your camera is colorblind. Regardless of the scene, its subject matter, color, or composition, the meter measures only the overall amount of light reflecting from the scene. Since the light meter measures only brightness, how light or dark the scene is, and not color, the automatic exposure system then calculates and sets the aperture and shutter speed to render this level of light as middle gray or 18% gray in the photograph. This middle gray is what all light meters are programmed to render as exposure. Most of the time this works out very well because most scenes have an overall reflectance that averages out to middle gray. But some scenes and situations don't average out to middle gray. Scenes lighter than middle gray, such as snow scenes or bright sand, reflect more than 18% of the light falling on them. The auto exposure system doesn't know the scene should look bright, so it calculates an exposure that produces an image that is too dark. To lighten the image so it matches the original scene, you must override the camera's automatic exposure system to open up your aperture. Scenes that are darker than middle gray, such as deep shadows, dark foliage, or people with dark skin, reflect less than 18% of the light falling on them. To produce a picture with an overall tone darker than middle gray, you will need to override the automatic exposure system to close down your aperture. One way to ensure you will get the best exposure is to take 3 pictures. The first would be at the recommended setting. The second would be lighter, and the third darker than the original one. This process is referred to as bracketing because you're bracketing the suggested exposure. Many digital cameras have a bracketing mode that can do this procedure automatically. Most digital cameras have 4 basic recording or exposure modes. These modes are P or program, where the camera controls both the shutter speeds and the aperture settings. A or aperture priority, where the photographer selects the f-stop and the camera selects the correct shutter speed. S or shutter priority, where the photographer selects the shutter speed and the camera selects the correct aperture setting. M or manual exposure, where the photographer selects both the f-stop and the shutter speed. There will come a time when there is not enough natural light to make a correct exposure, or when you need to fill in light on a subject. That's when you'll use your built-in flash on your camera or use an external flash unit. Flash photography has come a long way since the 19th century, when a photographer had to ignite a tray filled with gunpowder to light a scene. The automatic flash unit built into a digital camera uses a permanent electronic tube that emits a short, intense burst of light. This reusable light source is combined with a sophisticated light measuring and exposure control system. These built-in flash units let you take photos when available light is dim or non-existent. They also allow you to fill in dark shadows on a sunny day. Most of these built-in flash units have limited power and won't work well over a 12 to 20 foot range of the camera. Also, because the unit is so close to the camera lens, the light can cause unsightly shadows when the flash is a sole source of light and or if the subject is close to a wall. Generally, the best use of your standard on-camera flash is to lighten shadows in sunny high-contrast days or backlit situations. An accessory for some digital cameras is a more powerful flash unit that can be tilted to bounce off walls to produce a softer light. Better digital cameras offer a hot shoe on top of the camera that lets you mount this separate flash unit. Not only does this shoe secure the flash to the camera, it also provides the necessary electrical connections between the two units. Sometimes using your flash as your fill source of light just doesn't work out. If that's the case, try using some type of a reflector. If angled correctly, reflectors can pick up enough light to fill in any shadows of your image. Any light-colored material can be used as a reflector. A white sheet of paper, a card, a white bedsheet, or even a white shirt. Many photographers use flexible round or oval reflectors which can be twisted to 1/3 of their full size. These types of reflectors are lightweight and very efficient. Exposure control is more than just concepts of good photography. Correct exposure control can set the mood and tone of your images. I encourage you to fully understand these techniques. When you do, both you and your images will improve. Key concept. The ISO is a rating system that sets the sensitivity of your camera's sensor to light. Key concept. All light meters calculate exposure as to render the picture as middle gray or 18% gray. Key concept. Most digital cameras have 4 basic exposure modes. P for program, A for aperture priority, S for shutter priority, and M for manual. Key concept. Your built-in flash unit has limited power and won't work well over a 12 to 20 foot range of the camera. As a photographer, whether I'm crafting pictures for myself or for a client, I'm always directly involved in the design process. Like all aspects of visual design, photographic composition requires some planning and decision making. There are some basic rules and concepts that will help you in your planning and decision making. The most fundamental rule you start with is what I call the rule of thirds and odds. Let's look at the rule of thirds first. There are rational methods of composition. The most common is based on the golden mean, a system of proportions devised by the ancient Greeks. The rule of thirds advises us that important visual elements be placed at the intersection of grid lines or along any of the lines. Some photographers visualize this grid in their viewfinder as a starting point for their compositions. Principal dividing lines should be placed away from the center to avoid static compositions. Here we have three different looks at the same sunset. Note that the first two use the rule of thirds, while the last image is static without the use of the golden mean. This is a good illustration of why this rule is so useful in photographic design. Most photographers will tend to make these visual judgments intuitively, especially after they have practiced balancing visual weights in their viewfinder. The rule of odds can be interrelated with the rule of thirds. Static images like this one are usually out of balance. Here the two trees are positioned in such a way that the image is split into two halves. I stay away from main subjects and even numbers like 2, 4, or 6. Even number objects are just too static. Here a single tree has much more impact and interest. Odd numbers are best. Use 1, 3, or 5 main subjects within your image to help balance your design and composition. But that general rule does not work every time. Here we have a single subject, but the image is still static. Both the main subject and the horizon line are in the center of the image. Remember the rule of thirds. Learn to visualize your image in thirds, both vertical and horizontal, to help balance the composition. Another very powerful design tool is depth of field. When photographing a group of objects which cover an entire picture area, you have a couple of options. You can either maximize the depth of field by using a small aperture like f8 or f11, or you can limit the depth of field with a large aperture like f2.8 or f4 and create a narrow band of focus. In this case, it does not make much sense to use a shallow depth of field to selectively focus on a portion of these iron chains. Our eyes want to follow the lines from the foreground to the background. They are held in the area by the sharp lines and the shapes of the chains. But if we use a large aperture and focus about 1/3 of the way into this image of flowers, we're able to achieve a minimum depth of field. The result is more pleasing to the eye. Our attention is drawn to the flowers that are in focus. Limited focus can be used to advantage when you want to draw the eye to a particular object or group of objects. By throwing the top of the picture out of focus, we've created a good background for advertising copy. The type can be easily read over the indistinct flowers. If the entire picture was put into focus, the copy becomes more difficult to read because the background flowers compete for the attention of our eye. However, increasing the depth of field increases the impression of a three-dimensional space in our two-dimensional picture. This effect can be used to an advantage if you want to make the picture appear as if it goes on to infinity. Selective focus can be used to create an impression of depth and draw the eye into the background, or it can help flatten space and keep the eye in a particular area. The latter usage is especially helpful when you're working on location with distracting backgrounds. One of the very first design choices you have to make is how you want to frame your subject. Once the photographer has camera in hand, their primary design decisions are made with the frame in the camera viewfinder. Will you shoot a vertical or horizontal image? Where will you place the subject within the frame? Using the frame is a critical design tool because it shapes not only the look of the photograph and the formal arrangement of visual elements, but also its contents or emphasis. By framing a scene in this manner, the subject of the picture is the wooden chairs. We have made a simple, straightforward record of items on a beach. By moving the frame, the photographer selects what to include in the picture and what to exclude. This creative choice affects the visual organization and the relationship between objects and any people within the frame. A new relationship, a visual connection, has been created between the man and the wooden chairs on a beach. With a slightly different framing, another relationship has been created with the inclusion of a second person in the picture. The photograph is still a beach picture, but a social implication has been added in that their swimming suits are noticed in a real-life situation. By changing the framing of the photograph, we have communicated three entirely different messages. The final choice, the final editing, will depend upon what we want to say about this particular place and this subject matter. Of course, we have many more possibilities with this image other than the previous three examples. We can also use the frame to isolate a portion of the scene. For example, we may want to frame only the people, cropping out the wooden chairs, to draw attention to the couple. The process of framing the entire scene, or details within the scene, is similar to a system of photographic scene that is used in cinematography. Camera shots are identified by how much of an average-sized person or persons are included. A long shot shows at least the entire figure with enough space at the top and bottom of the frame so that the people do not appear cramped. This can also be called an establishing shot. A medium shot shows the people from their waist to above their heads. This can also be called a two-shot. A close-up shows only the head and shoulders of the couple. An extreme close-up isolates only a portion of the person's head and is used for dramatic visual impact. This cinematic version of framing can be adapted to the needs of the still photographer, especially when planning a series of photographs. For every photographic situation, there are an infinite number of framing choices possible. The point is, use your camera's viewfinder like an artist uses a canvas. Learn how to approach each subject with a variety of framing options. Move in, move out, move around. In addition to choosing how to frame an image, you must also find other camera positions that may prove more visually interesting. In other words, you must find the best vantage point. By changing your vantage point, you will alter the relationship between your subject and its background. Changing your vantage point means taking another point of view or seeing from a different angle. From this angle, the stairs are dominant in the frame. The Lincoln Memorial, which is really the subject of the image, has become part of the background. We have given this travel picture a unique look at the monument. You don't always have to look straight ahead or keep your subjects at eye level at all times when you're crafting a photograph. A high vantage point provides this interesting bird's eye view of a castle in Europe. The camera now emphasizes the geometry of our scene rather than the objects within it. For a dramatically different angle, we can also look up at our subjects. There is obviously some distortion here, but this point of view will attract more attention than a straightforward eye-level version. Certainly, you have a great many more choices for a vantage point than simply eye level or very high or very low. And each time your subject moves, there is a whole new range of options or design considerations. So move with your subject and keep looking for angles and different points of view. As we have seen, the design process has many choices. How do you frame your subject for maximum visual impact? Which vantage point will best communicate your message? Do you focus on part of the picture or all of it? And there are still more choices to make. For example, perhaps you should consider photographing in black and white instead of color. By experimenting with different ways of looking at your subjects and different methods of controlling the images you see, you'll become more aware of your creative options. But remember, in photography, all rules and concepts can be broken, so keep on experimenting. Key concept. The rule of thirds tells us to visualize our images in thirds, both vertical and horizontal, to help balance the composition. Key concept. The rule of odds tells us that using odd number subjects is better than using even number subjects. Key concept. Depth of field can be used to create an impression of depth or draw the eye to specific subjects. Key concept. The camera's viewfinder is like an artist's canvas. Learn how to approach each subject with a variety of framing options. Key concept. A different vantage point gives the subject a different point of view.
Learning how to critique photographs, yours and others, is a fundamental step in learning how to see photographically.
We live in a busy world full of visual clutter. There are powerful pictures all around us, but for the most part, we're just not aware of these images. The secret is to learn how to see and build an awareness and appreciation for these images. Once we have this awareness, we can then attempt to craft similar images with our digital cameras. But the process doesn't stop there. After you've taken your pictures, you, the photographer, must make the important choices of selecting which images that work and which images that don't work. This editing process is critical to your photographic growth.
All too often, photographers get personally involved with the subjects they photograph, and this involvement can cloud their judgment when it comes to making final image selection. Remember to be as tough on yourself as you are on other photographers' work when you critique photographs. The discipline of critiquing photography, especially your own, is critical if you want to improve your image making capabilities. Here are 4 methods of starting to see photographically.
If you want some powerful instruction on critiquing images, try watching television without the sound for a few minutes each day. Especially watch those 30 and 60-second commercials. If you watch closely, you will see many of the photographic techniques we have covered in this program. In some cases, all these techniques come together and you have a powerful commercial that communicates its message clearly to the viewer. In other cases, these techniques don't work together and you end up with a dull, boring commercial with no message. Another great exercise is to make a comp book or idea book. Go through old magazines, newspapers, and catalogs. Select images that you think are powerful or communicative. Cut out these pictures and add them to your book. Then write your critique under each image. Pick the images apart, good, bad, and ugly. If you try to duplicate some of the images you like in your book, put your image side by side and critique both. Always keep your book updated with new images as you come across pictures you like. We all have them, stacks and stacks of snapshots. Some images may be old and black and white, while other stacks of pictures may be newer and in color. The idea here is to review these images in a process of rapid elimination. Take hold of 40 or 50 prints and start running through them, taking a critical look for the techniques we've covered in this program. Discard all but 4 or 5 pictures and set them side by side. From this series, select your favorite. Do you see themes in what you've selected? If so, what kind? Was there a variety in your subjects? While these images are only snapshots, did they communicate? What did you learn about yourself and your photography from this exercise? The process of learning to critique photography is both learning to see photographically and viewing volumes and volumes of images. There are websites where you can find volumes of other photographers' work and leave your own images and/or optional written critiques. Use an internet keyword search of critiquing photography to find these sites. These are dynamic image-based photo forum sites. They invite you to share your images with other users. Whether you're a beginning photographer or an experienced pro, post some images for others to enjoy and critique. Even if you don't post, you'll find these forums enjoyable, revealing, and sometimes even inspiring. If you decide to post to these websites, please choose your images carefully. Post only your best work. If you receive written critiques on your work, remember that a critique is not a put-down. Critical comments are meant to help you improve your image-making skills.
I've outlined 4 simple ways that you can start critiquing photographs right away. Once you start seeing photographically, your images will improve. Next, let's look at photography in 2 general categories: visual themes and visual subjects.
Key concept. Learning to critique images helps build awareness to good photographic techniques. Key concept. There are 4 simple ways to find images to critique: off television, building a comp or idea book, using snapshots, and/or using the internet.
Let's start by looking at some pictures that have visual themes as their primary element. Each and every successful picture has one or more visual theme.
If you were a fashion photographer, of course the fashions would be one of your themes. If you were a photojournalist, the news event would be one theme. If you were shooting portraits, your subject would be the main theme. But in each type of photography, there are many other themes that may complement and in some cases may even dominate the picture's main theme. These other themes can be light, color, focus, and/or composition. First, we will critique some images where the use of light is the primary or secondary theme. Then we will critique a series of photographs that has the strong use of colors as a theme. Next, we will critique some shots where the control of focus is used or should have been used as a theme. Finally, we will critique some images where the rules of good and not so good composition are apparent as a theme. Whenever I think about images with light as a main theme, I think about sunsets and sunrises. There is something magical about this time of day. Images like this one communicate the beauty of the moment, but remember that correct exposure control is needed, so meter for middle gray in the sky and bracket your exposure. The best thing about shooting outside early in the morning or late in the afternoon is the color quality of the light. While this image may be a little static due to the composition, the use of the warm light supports the main theme of the couple's affection for each other. Another use of early and late lighting is the opportunity to use silhouettes. In this image, the people are silhouetted against the horizon with the strong shapes of the rocks in the background. Accurate exposure control is required, and then bracket your exposure both ways for insurance. Here, the light strong contrast has washed out most of the details in the face of the subject. The photographer needed to use a reflector or flash as a fill source. This type of fill light would have put life into the subject's eyes and help render details in the shadow side of the face. But here that same strong contrast does work. While the eyes are in shadow and there is little or no detail on the shadow side of the face, the image still works. Why? Because of the texture and color of both the face and turban working together. This image is strong with all of its characteristics. Here, the photographer used soft sunlight and the shade of a tree to make the image of the boy soft but yet bright with color and character. This type of soft shade light will always bring depth and softness to your images. The very first element in any successful image is light, and how the photographer chooses to see and manipulate that light. Next, we'll take a look at some images where color is one of the visual themes. In this image, the color theme is color contrast. The dark berries with their shiny highlights are in direct contrast to the red berries. The richness of both these colors work well together. Here we have that same general color theme. The red rose is in stark contrast with the black background, but the addition of the water droplets and the green of the leaves of the rose have helped make this image look both soft and fresh. In this twilight cityscape, the color of the sky blends nicely with the lights from the downtown buildings. The river in the foreground and the bridge across it complete the composition. Here, the color theme is almost the lack of color. The pale green bottle and the pale red of the wine stand out from the black and white background. The hard spotlight on the background brings our eye to the stop action of the wine and the bottle, which is the center of attention. There is no doubt that color is the primary theme in this image. The strong lines of the pencils, color contrast, and selective focus make this image work very well. While the composition of this image is a little out of balance and is divided into two halves, the yellow of the flowers show us just how strong a color yellow is. Yellow is a unique color in that it is even brighter than red or white, which can dominate most color combinations. In this city image, we have just the opposite feeling from the other city image we looked at a few pictures ago. This image uses cool blue evening light as the main theme. Note how the blue moon adds to this effect. Blue hues are very cool in most images. I also like the contrast of the shapes of the buildings in the background to that of the Space Needle. Let's turn our attention to focus and how to use selective focus for your images. Use selective focus to draw attention to the main theme or subject in your image. Here the sharp pencil stands out from the out-of-focus background and our eye goes right to the main subject. There are many times when you will require a large depth of field, such as this landscape. The lake in the foreground is sharp all the way to the mountain and the clouds in the background. Most landscape images are shot with wide-angle lenses that promote large depths of field. Here again is an image with a large depth of field. So large, in fact, that if you look up at the left-hand corner, you can see a dark area, which is the lens shade. Using wide-angle lenses with small apertures cause this problem. Make sure that you are using the correct lens shade with any wide-angle lenses. Some subjects have a limited depth of field. These slices of oranges are sitting only a fraction of an inch from each other and have a shallow depth of field. To promote the sharpest image possible, the aperture should be set at 2 or 3 stops from the lens's largest f-stop. This is the optimum area of lens sharpness. In every successful image, there is an area of sharpness. In this dramatic image of the police officer, the very tip of the gun is sharp, while the entire background is soft and out of focus. But the background still conveys that it is a police officer holding the gun. Here, the foreground is soft and out of focus, while the girl on the bench is sharp and in focus. The softness and colors of the foreground helps lead our eye to the main subject, the student. In this image, the only sharp element is the point of the pen. The background, the hand, and the notebook are all soft. This is another good example of using selective focus to draw our attention to the main subject. Selective focus is just another tool in any photographer's toolbox. Understanding how to use this tool will greatly improve your photography. Another tool is the general principles and techniques of image design and composition. The first aspect of good design and composition is framing. You can select to photograph your image as a vertical or horizontal, or you can choose to use an element within the image to frame your main subject, such as the tree in this picture. In this vertical image, the photographer used the rocks in the foreground to frame the landscape. This type of framing helps add interest and depth to our images. Remember that our pictures only have 2 dimensions, height and width. Therefore, whatever the photographer can do to imply depth can add impact to the image. Here we have a good example of using lines to add impact and depth. The model's arms and legs are what I call power lines, with the lines and shapes of the stairs complementing our main subject. The photographer also used good color contrast, perspective, and selective focus to help draw the viewer's attention to the model. In this image, shape is the main element. The shape of the rocks in the foreground are overpowered by the bold shapes of the clouds, which dominates the image. Static images like this one are usually out of balance. Here the two trees are positioned in such a way that the image is split into two halves. I tend to stay away from main subjects in even numbers like 2, 4, or 6. Even number objects are just too static. Here a single tree has much more visual impact and interest. Odd numbers are best. Use 1, 3, or 5 main subjects within your images to help balance your design and composition. But that general rule does not work every time. Here we have a single subject, but the image is still static. Both the main subject and the horizon line are in the center of the image. Remember the rule of thirds. Learn to visualize your image in thirds both vertically and horizontally to help balance the composition. Here, both the main subject and the horizon line are in the lower third of the frame. This is a much better composition. Here is an excellent example of a well-composed and designed image. The photographer recognized some of the principles we have just talked about. There are 3 main objects: the sun, the bridge pillar on the left, and the small one on the right. The composition uses the lines and shapes of the bridge going in and out of the fog. The lighting and color contrast are quite dramatic.
As you can see, some photographic decisions are better than others. If you learn some basic photographic tools and concepts, you just might be able to craft that infinite image, that image that can change the hearts and minds of the people that view it.
Key concept. The first element in any successful image is light and how the photographer chooses to use it. Key concept. Yellow is a unique color in that it is even brighter than red or white. Key concept. Using selective focus can draw attention to your main theme or subject. Key concept. The first aspect of good design and composition is framing.
A photographer with a good eye can find images everywhere. The subject of your image can be as simple as a piece of driftwood or as complex as the study of color. In this chapter, we're going to look at 4 general categories of visual subjects: people, action, travel, and nature. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get started.
Here is a typical candid of a person at work. The photographer just has too much going on here. The image is busy with all the different shapes, lines, and colors. The person, our main subject, is lost within the image and is poorly lit by available light. People are a fascinating subject and in most cases should be photographed close up. Here the soft light helps bring out the character of the old man's face. The yellow rain slicker and the pipe with smoke rising tell us he must be a fisherman. This image works well. You can almost hear the violin playing in this image. The soft diffused sunlight is coming from over his shoulder. The red tie and the handkerchief contrast well against his black suit. The out-of-focus background helps our eye go right to the main subject. Here, the photographer used a long lens and a low vantage point to soften both the foreground and background. The position of the subject, half lit by the sun and half in shade, works well. This image has depth because of its use of lighting and focus. Kids, what great subjects they make! Here the photographer used a wide-angle lens to capture the boy's expression. Note the large depth of field. While I like the lighting on the boy's face and his expression, the busy background is distracting. Move in, crop to the boy. I like this close-up of the girl. The photographer used his flash as the key light and let some of the window light fall on the side of her face. The out-of-focus background brings our attention right to her face and expression. The image is well composed. Here, while the subject is centered in the frame, his expression saves the image. I like the medium light coming from the right side, which provides for catch lights in the eyes and the highlight on his lips. What a great little face. Here is an image a little more formal. I like the high camera angle and the broad light coming from the right and above. Note how this lighting pattern has brought out our model's high cheekbones. The framing of her hair and the background contrast nicely to her face. This image is really just a snapshot. While the colorful costumes of the girls are interesting, they are just too static in the frame. Twos are hard to shoot. They tend to put the composition out of balance. In this picture, one or the other should have been positioned to dominate the image in the frame. Of all photographic subjects, I enjoy shooting people the best. But there are things you have to look for: your lighting, focus, composition, and all those other elements that make people pictures successful. But the most important thing I look for is the subject's eyes. The eyes are the window to their character, so focus on the eyes. Next, let's turn our attention to action images. This type of image is usually crafted in the style of industrial, photojournalism, and/or sports photography. Here we have a subject running on the beach in late evening lighting. At first glance, this image may appear to be out of balance, but because the photographer has the subject running into the dark evening, which represents over 2/3 of the frame's weight, it is in balance. The reflection off the wet sand and the shape of the clouds help make this an excellent action image. Still images do not move. Therefore, photographers can only imply action. Here, it's the use of the dancer's arms, which are lines within the composition, that imply action. It's the viewer's imagination that completes that action. The soft light and position of the arms makes this image work. Working in the woods with a chainsaw should have lots of action. But this image failed to deliver that action. I like the logger's position and the chips of sawdust on the base of the tree. What we don't have is sawdust flying in the air, which would communicate action. Also, I'd like to see more of the face of the logger. Here, the blurred colors and the shape of the subject implies action. We can tell that the subject is on a fast-moving bike and is wearing a white bike helmet. The photographer used a slow shutter speed and panned the camera as the image was made. But make sure your shutter speed is not too slow, as that might make the subject too blurry and unrecognizable. Here's another good example of using a blurred background to imply action and motion. The vantage point of the camera is in the center of the merry-go-round. The position of the girl's hands are great as she hangs onto the bar, but the position of the man's hand on the left is poor as it's been cut off. Boy, that can be painful. I like this image and its use of composition to imply action. The color contrast between the moving boat and the water is excellent. The whitewater spray behind the boat reinforces the action of the image. When shooting action images, keep in mind that our pictures only have two dimensions, height and width. It's you, the photographer, that can add that third dimension of depth and imply action with the use of good photographic techniques. Learn to plan your images to better communicate your visual message.
Over the years, I've been fortunate to travel most of the world doing photographic assignments. From these travels, I've become very aware of the difficulty of crafting travel images that communicate the tone and character of the places I visited. Let's take a look at some travel images and see what makes them successful.
I love images of old barns. In this image, the photographer used the roll of hay in the foreground as the main subject. The light is coming from the right and is low in the sky, which brings out the texture in both the hay and the wood of the old barn. Also, the color contrast between the hay, grass, and barn works nicely. In this image, the old stone tower is anchored on the left third of the frame. The overall look of the image tells us we must be somewhere in Europe. I like the rolling green countryside that helps add depth to the picture. Once again, low direct light has added texture to the stones of the tower. The visual theme here is contrast. Not just the color contrast between the two main subjects, but also the contrast between old and new. Note how the buildings in the background go from well lit in the front to gray in the back. This effect has added depth to the image. Perfect weather does not always provide perfect lighting. Some of the best images are crafted in changing weather conditions. The visual theme here is shapes, reflections, and repetition set against a foggy background. The muted colors offer a good contrast to the yellow sun. The overall image works well. This evening shot has a lot going for it. I like the position of the bridge in the foreground, which leads our eye down the bridge to San Francisco in the background. The bright red sky and the red lights of the bridge contrast nicely with the darker parts of the image. A slow shutter speed was used to blur the car movement on the bridge. This is a well-crafted image. You can almost smell the flowers in this image. I very much like the composition and color contrast of the picture. Note how the photographer used both the lines of the trees and the tracks in the flowers to lead our eye into the image. These lines work together to give the image depth and perspective. The low light coming from the sun shows us texture within all elements of the image. Travel images can be fun to craft, but they do take planning and the use of good photographic technique. It's so easy for the photographer to get wrapped up with where they are while forgetting what they want their travel images to communicate. Our last visual subject category is nature. This style of image making is a challenge because the photographer is for the most part out in the wild at the complete mercy of Mother Nature. Close-ups of wild animals like this can be difficult to craft. Of course, the use of a long telephoto lens is a must. In this image, the photographer used that long lens to capture this proud-looking lion. Note the good color contrast between the dark background and the much lighter subject. Another element that makes this image work is the fact that the lion's ears are up, which makes him look alert. In this excellent nature image, color is the visual theme. I like the well-lit foreground that brings out the layers of color, and the gray and foggy background helps add depth to the scene. While the cow may be one subject or element of the composition, it's color and contrast that makes this image work. This image of daisies used selective focus as its visual theme. Because the foreground and background are both out of focus, our eye goes right to the sharper flowers in the center. Using larger apertures when making images of flowers usually works well. In this image, there are a few problems. First is frame selection. This image would have been better composed as a vertical, not a horizontal. Also, the ostrich's neck seems to be cutting the picture in half. And finally, the ostrich would have been better composed if it was looking into the picture, not out of the picture. In this excellent flower image, color contrast and composition are the visual theme. The photographer used the micro setting on the lens to get as close up as this. At first glance, the rule of thirds tells us to move the dark center of the flower, but the photographer chose to let the dark center be composed in the center of the frame, which works well. This is a good illustration that some rules of photography are meant to be broken. Here is an excellent image where the photographer used a long lens to soften both the background and foreground to focus our attention on the main subject. Note again that the animal's ears are up, which makes the subject look alert. I also like the position of the animal in the left third of the frame. The image's only fault is that the top frame line is cropping the horns. We need a little more air or space on the top. Before I bring up the final nature image, I want to make a point. When you see the next picture, keep track of where your eyes go first. I'll bet your eyes went to the bright spot behind the animal. That's normal. Most viewers' eyes go to the brightest spot in any picture. While I like this close-up image very much, that bright light in the background is distracting. It conflicts with the natural catch lights in the animal's eyes. Good nature images can be found as close as your own backyard or at your local zoo. Just remember, if you venture out further into the true wilderness, go prepared. Not only for your image making, but also for your safety and comfort. It's a long way between watering holes in the middle of the desert, and weather conditions can change fast on the top of a mountain. So be prepared. Key concept: when crafting images of people, try to focus on their eyes. Key concept: pictures have only two dimensions, height and width. Key concept: crafting travel images takes planning and good photographic technique. Key concept: when crafting images of animals, try to capture them with their ears up.
Well, you've got your digital camera, and I've given you some basic instruction on how to craft digital images, and you're ready to go, right? Well, maybe not. There are some basic shooting accessories that I would like you to consider. I know many of you have thought about a camera bag for your digital camera, but there's more to consider, so let's take a look.
One of the most expensive components on your digital camera is the lens. Whether your lens is made of plastic or optical glass, it can be easily smudged or scratched. Therefore, the first accessory I would recommend is a very inexpensive and safe lens cleaning kit. These kits usually include some type of lens cleaning solution that should never be wiped directly onto the lens. Instead, moisten a tissue and wipe the lens, and then dry off the solution with another tissue. Another insurance policy to protect your lens is to use a skylight or UV filter. These haze-type filters can be handy because they protect the front of the lens from scratches as well as grease spots and dust. First, you should confirm that your lens accepts filters by seeing if there are small threads on front of the lens. Then check the side of the lens barrel for the lens size opening in millimeters. Once you have your filter, all you have to do is screw it into the lens and leave it on. These types of filters can also slightly warm up the colors on a cloudy day and cut down on the effect of haze or dust in the atmosphere. But if you're going to invest in only one filter, I recommend you make it the polarizer. When light rays strike an uneven surface, they're reflected back into your lens from more than just one angle. It's these scattered rays that produce what we normally call glare. A polarizing filter reduces glare by filtering out most of these scattered light rays. When you rotate a polarizing filter, you can see the effect right in your viewfinder. There are other types of filters you might want to consider. These include color correction filters, soft focus filters, sparkle or star filters, and a large number of other special effect filters. But my advice is to start with a polarizer and then invest in other filters when you have a specific need for them. Camera shake is far and away the #1 cause of ruined pictures. Therefore, every serious photographer should have at least one good sturdy tripod. A tripod provides a shooting platform for your camera when making exposures shorter than 1/60th of a second. Tripods come in all sizes and weights, from heavy-duty pods for large cameras to short pods for working on tabletop or close to the ground. Because most digital cameras are small and lightweight, you will more than likely only need a lightweight pod. Some of the features you should look for are: 1. A smooth working head so you can easily pan and tilt your camera. 2. Legs that can be easily extended so you can work at eye level. 3. Some type of leveling system so your camera can always be set up level. 4. A tripod constructed of lightweight material so you won't get tired of carrying it around, but yet sturdy enough to carry your camera safely. An investment in a good tripod is an investment in good photography. As we have talked about earlier, the built-in light meter in your digital camera is more than likely a center-weighted system of exposure control. This means that the camera's reflective meter gives more importance to the center of your composition than it does to the sides or top and bottom of the frame. Determining correct exposure using this type of automated system can be challenging for complex lighting situations. The best type of metering for these complicated situations is to use a handheld light meter. Most of these types of meters can read both reflective and incident light falling on the subject. The light-sensitive cell of a handheld meter is covered with a translucent white hemisphere that collects light from a very large area. The meter is held at the subject's position with the hemisphere pointed towards the camera. Thus, the meter reads and calculates all the light falling on the subject to determine the correct exposure. Another big advantage of using a handheld meter is that most of these kinds of units can also act as a flash meter. This means that they can read the amount of light falling on your subject from your built-in or off-camera flash unit, and then the meter will calculate the correct exposure. When photographing people using your built-in flash unit, you'll often see what is called red eye. The light from the flash has entered through the subject's pupil and reflected off the retina at the back of the eye and then back out to your camera. Since the retina is full of thin blood vessels, it takes on a red color. Some flash units have a red eye reduction mode. These work by firing a separate red eye reduction lamp or a series of short flash bursts from the main flash unit to close the iris of the eye a little before firing the actual flash used to take the picture. The built-in flash that comes with most digital cameras is convenient to use because every place you and your camera go, it goes. However, these built-in flash units don't have much of a range and can't be positioned away from the camera to eliminate red eye. Pictures taken with these units also have a characteristic harsh lighting effect. These types of units can't be rotated to bounce flash off a wall or a ceiling to soften the lighting. A good solution to this problem is the off-camera flash units that have a tilt and swivel flash head. This type of flash can be pointed up and turned from side to side. These movements enable you to bounce the light from walls or a ceiling before it reaches your subject. By bouncing the light off a ceiling or a wall, you will soften and broaden its effect, much like the indirect light of an overcast day. Reflectors are used to bounce back light onto your subject. This light can be from your main source of light, like the sun, or even ambient or random light. The great thing about light reflectors is that they can be as small as a white card or as big as a white wall or building. But white is not the only color that works for adding light, as you can also use silver, gold, or even black to subtract light. If you don't want to build your own reflectors, there are many types and styles of ready-made units on the market today. I prefer working with reflectors like these that can be collapsed to 1/3 of their size for easy storage and use. These reflectors come in many sizes and colors for almost any photographic application. They are a great investment in giving your images a professional look.
One thing's for sure, if you purchased all the accessories we've covered in this chapter, your little camera bag would soon run out of room. But then, that's photography.
Key concept: if you're going to invest in only one filter, make it a polarizer. Key concept: when making exposures shorter than 1/60th of a second, use a tripod. Key concept: if you bounce your flash off a wall or a ceiling, it will soften the light's output. Key concept: a reflector is used to bounce back light onto your subject. Well-crafted images are like droplets of water. They start small but can reach out beyond the horizon. Pictures are more than just the gift of time, as they can also be the inspiration of mankind. Images can document our accomplishments or tell us about our time or times gone by. Photography can capture the inspiration of a sunrise, the freshness of the morning dew, or just make us ponder the beauty of Mother Nature. Images can whisk us away to the distant locations of the universe or deliver us to the deepest corners of the ocean. Good images can motivate, educate, or just provide visual gratification. Pictures can be breaths of fresh air or daggers of despair. Images can have a frankness with no boundaries and no rules. Our pictures are timeless and treasured. They can communicate when words alone are hollow and empty. Successful images reflect the emotions and the creativity of the photographer who crafted them. With a good digital camera in the right hands, this timeless treasure can be opened to anyone that has a vision and imagination. For the seeds of all great images are watered by the imagination of the photographers who crafted them.
In this program, we've looked at some general rules and concepts of good photography. But I want to assure you, in photography, there are no rules or concepts that can't be challenged.
I marvel at the work of many new photographers, for they seem to have the instinctive ability to see and craft outstanding images of the simplest of subjects. They confirm that there is indeed pictures all around us. All we have to do is learn how to see these images.
That's what I hope this program has done. Helped you start looking and seeing the visual images that are all around us. I'm Brian Ratty. Thanks for watching. Good luck and good shooting.